Good day to everyone joining us and want to attend today's exciting webinar. We have some great speakers with us today, and the topic is also amazing: Beyond Digital, Leading Technology Transformations for the Next Era. It's an hour-long webinar and will be full of exciting thought process and ideas. Just for your information, the event is broadcasted live on LinkedIn Live, and the recording will be also there in our YouTube page as well. So do not forget to subscribe to our social media handles. Feel free to ask questions to the panel members through the Q&A section, which is visible to all of you, and we will try to get it answered at the end as per the time permitted. In case something goes unanswered, you can always drop in an email or leave a note to us through the social media and we'll get it answered as well. Special thanks to all our community partners for today, which is Al Nabuda Automobiles, Core 42, then we have Canadian Specialist Hospital, we have Metro Brands Limited, and then we have InfoVision, who is from the moderator side as well, for their essential role in making this webinar possible. Of course, a heartfelt thanks to all our attendees because your presence is invaluable to us. Our platform is built to help you gather insights and connect with the peers. So if you leave with new ideas or strong connections, we'll consider a great job from our side. For today's session, I'll give you some glimpse of what we'll be covering in our panel discussion. We'll covering Beyond Digital, role of CXO, capabilities for organizations to look forward, the challenges which is going on, the culture things which is as in the organization, future prospects, emerging innovations, and much more, which we will covering throughout the panel. Just a brief disclaimer before we get started. The views shared by all the speakers are their personal ones and do not necessarily represent the perspectives of their respective organizations. So thank you again for all of you for being here, and let's get started. I'll hand over to Vinay to kick off this exciting panel discussion. Over to you, Vinay.
Thank you, Nitin. Thank you for that great introduction, and very good morning and afternoon and evening if at all you're attending from US. So thanks and welcome to today's webinar, Beyond Digital, Leading Technology Transformation, the Next Era, hosted by AI Co-Spot in technical collaboration with InfoVision. So let's get started with this today's webinar. Over the last decade, we all have lived through digitization and digitalization, modernizing the systems, migrating to cloud, automating workflows, and whatnot. But what we are stepping into now is something fundamentally different. We're entering a world where the organizations don't just use technology. They think with it, they evolve with it, they sense, decide, and act with intelligence at scale. This is intelligent transformation, the stage beyond digital. And today, we have an exceptional panel to explore what this means for different industries, operating models, and leadership roles. Let me introduce each one of them. Kuntal, who is the Chief AI and Data Officer at Metro Brands, a transformation leader shaping AI across retail, consumer, and e-commerce. Very warm welcome to this webinar.
Thank
Rajiv, who is the Chief Delivery Officer at Core 42, a senior management professional with entrepreneurial experience in private and publicly traded European and Asian IT services and engineering companies. A very warm welcome, Rajiv.
Thank you.
Ibrahim, a Chief Information Officer at Al Nabuda Automobiles LLC, a transformative CIO and technology advisor with 30+ years in implementing and driving complex IT projects focused on the automotive industry. Welcome, Ibrahim.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And Hiren, the Director of IT at the Canadian Specialist Hospital. He has a deep experience in large hospital project execution across varied platforms and systems, enabling the hospitals to go digital. A very warm welcome to you, Hiren.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So today we have 4 different vantage points: AI first, delivery first, industry first, and human first. One shared theme: how do we build organizations ready for the next era? So let's dive right in. I want to start by framing today's discussion around 3 shifts shaping every industry, from digital tools to intelligent ecosystems, from technology enablement to intelligence orchestration, from efficiency to autonomy plus value creation. In that context, let's bring all the 4 panelists into this conversation right from the start. So what I would like to do is I would kick off and provide one question. So each one of you can start thinking about how do you want to address this as I come to each one of you. So the question is, Beyond digital is being described as the beginning of intelligent transformation. What differentiates this stage from the traditional digitization in your industry? So this is something that you can start thinking about as I come to each one of you. Ibrahim, let me start with you. Automotive retail is undergoing massive transformation. Connected mobility, smart dealerships, integrated customer journeys. So what does beyond digital look like in your world?
Right. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Automotive industry is basically is one of the most disruptive industry, if you look into that. Perhaps because the industry, it has been very well placed at the intersection of the different key stage of the transformation simultaneously. So in past, if you see, or in the recent years, you can see the industry has got a lot. We have seen the combustion engine from the to electric engine. So we are talking about EVs, and then after that, we have seen autonomous vehicles where AI is playing very important role in that, and then you have the new mobility business. So we are talking about this subscription model. We are talking about the car sharing model, and then again, the industry has been disrupted also by the competitive disruption, meaning that the industry was open and to other big players in the market other than the car makers or the OEMs. So we have seen that the new players like technology company has entered into the industry, in the automotive industry. We are thinking about new battery innovators. So many things has happened, and the new players came to the market because, in fact, the industry somehow has responded to the new things which was matter in the market, such as sustainability, or perhaps the shift of the customer preferences, and as far as the new business models. So, and all of this, basically, if you look into that, you can see that fundamentally has been changed the automotive industry, and many aspects of the industry has been, in some cases, has been reinvented. So you can see, for example, that it has been influenced or impacted on how we are selling the vehicle, how we are driving the vehicle, how we are servicing the vehicle, or how we are powering the vehicle. Yeah. So, but beyond digital, basically, I think it goes a step further and then brings something else, that is the intelligence to the table. And this definitely is going to impact the industry also in the big way. As we speak, we have two stages of transformation in front of us. We are talking about the intelligent transformation, wherein offering basically a smart ecosystem, and as well as the human is basically at the center of that transformation. And then you have the stage of the autonomous transformation, wherein we are talking about the self-driving, enterprises, so that many things is happening autonomously, and obviously the role of the human is going to shift also. It becomes supervisory and the governance.
Yeah.
So looking to that, we can see that basically this type of technology, this type of transformation, what we have in front of us, it brings the new aspects basically to the automotive sensing, so that you have a sense of market, you have the learning capabilities, you have the self-decision capabilities. So now that will take basically the industry. I'm now thinking to I'm looking from the retail automotive sector. Please keep aside the OEM and the product itself, because I'm not talking about that type of innovation, but then looking from the retail perspective. So I think that this transitions is going to provision basically the automotive retail sector to step into the smart dealership, meaning that, in such an ecosystem, I feel AI or agentic AI is playing a very important role in that, because the agents will be tasked to do the things like, um, uh, optimizing of
Yep.
the inventory, or they can, one of the major issues of the dealership is that how to attract, more to the customers, more to the dealership. And then now this agentic AI can be utilized to look into different type of information, such as social media, information in the dealer management system, the contact center information, and the browsing history of the customer, trying just to attract them and then bring it to the showroom automatically. And all of this is going to happen autonomously. And I think this one of the major characteristics here will be that, basically the interaction will be very personalized. So that means, you're dealing with the customer or leads and trying just to offer them, where the product or the service is going to have the best fit for the customer. So even if the customer is coming to the showroom, the agent is finding an skilled salesman to connect with the customer, which is matching the profile of the customer, even. So
So I think I
yeah.
think Ikram, since there are very interesting points, right? As the autonomous vehicles are coming to the picture, and there are new players who are coming also, which is also disrupting the way the automotive industry has seen how they operated before. And when you talk about how we sell, how we service, and how we drive the vehicles, that's going to change a lot. I mean, it's already changing. The electric vehicles that are coming in, they are more of tech on wheels, right? And everybody is looking at how that can be used into the traditional IC engine based systems also. So we see a lot of things changing, and I really appreciate your inputs on the way things are coming together and how AI and agentic AI is going to play a role in the future. This is good to learn about these things. I'll probably have others also come in and talk about how they are seeing in their industry how this is impacting, right? So let's move on to Kuntal for now. And since we touched upon automotive industry, which also is connected to a little bit of a retail side of the world, Kuntal, you come from retail side, and retail and consumers behave very differently. They move at speed, they depend on the personalization, and now operate with AI at the center. So how is beyond digital showing up in your world? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, you're mute.
You're on mute, you.
Kuntal, you're on mute probably.
Hi. I was thinking about this as Ibrahim was walking through his journey and his experience and what he's seen, right? And if you look at it in a bit of a simplistic manner, I think I would say about 10, 15 years ago, for a lot of legacy companies, especially, digital meant being online and being present in the cloud. And that was basically the be all and the end all for the majority of the companies. There were a few companies, though, who realized that along with being digital, there is the opportunity to get a lot of data, get a lot of signals, understand what is happening. And then I think came the problem of, okay, we have all of this, but what do we do with it? How do we crunch it? How do we actually mine it? We don't necessarily have the means or the resources to do, let's say, what the Amazon is doing or what the Facebook is doing, right? Or what someone that may be a consumer-based company, but really goes ahead and bets big on tech, for example, your Airbnb. What's happened today, I think, with the shift around foundational models that exist, the entire aspect of converting data into intelligence has become more democratized, I would say. So as retailers, as consumer brands, we truly have the opportunity to see what is a signal, convert it into learning for the organization, and deliver something on the spot. So whether it's an inventory scenario, whether it's pricing, whether it's how you want to respond to a consumer, those opportunities now exist, not only in terms of the signal and that you're getting, but also you have the ability of converting it to an action without it being too huge a task, or let me put honestly, too expensive an investment for most companies. So I think that's what we're going to see, the move from being digital and truly leveraging being digital. Yeah, and that's how I
Okay.
see the strong digital journey happening for retail and consumer.
Fantastic. So it's just very, very nice to hear this, how you brought in the comparison about companies like Amazon or Facebook, how they have been able to use the data and convert that data for their own business. And the way the retail companies initially, as you rightly said, going digital means I had to be online. That was the initial thought process. And over the time, they started looking at, okay, I need to provide a customer experience, so I need more of customer data. So they are able to connect that with the social media, bring that data into the entire customer experience. So when you look at your inventory pricing and providing that kind of a personalization, I think that's where the beyond digital means for the retail industry. And so those are very good points. Kuntal, really appreciate
And
it.
also, I mean, innovation, right? We have
Yeah.
the opportunity to learn, to test, learn, and understand what is it that consumers are actually reacting to, whether it's
Correct.
products, whether it's messaging, whether it's a service. It's an immense opportunity that exists now.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, yeah. I think the feedback mechanism that has come into social media and collecting all of that data coming into the entire customer's journey probably helps us to create new systems that can deliver the customer value, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Moving on to Rajiv, you have delivered a lot of transformation programs across private and publicly traded companies. So, from that multi-market view, what differentiates this new era of transformation?
Well, it's pretty interesting, right? We seem to be going full circle. When I started my career quite some time back, we saw transformation was predominantly process driven, right? And then over a period of time, it became a technology driven kind of a transformation. But what I'm increasingly seeing now is the value administration part. So when people were talking about modernizing systems, today they're sort of redesigning their entire operating model around data, AI, and automation. And this is great, right? Because what it's essentially doing is leveraging technology and essentially leveraging the traditional cloud and platform kind of stuff to really get into what generative AI can do, which is sort of enabling companies to move from an idea to a scaled impact in weeks or months, compared to the traditional years of work that goes into delivering transformation. I think this is a huge change that I'm seeing. The last part of the change that I'm actually also seeing is the cross ecosystem kind of an execution. Now, success is not just about internal change; it's also about how you integrate into partners, regulators, and then the supply chain of talent. And increasingly, especially in the world that I come from, I'm seeing competitors turn into collaborators. And that's usually talking about the interconnection and the faster outcome-based focus that's driving the transformation landscape. So it's really interesting in terms of how this whole thing is changing from, as I said, a process-driven thing to a value orchestrated thing, because this is really what will drive the new era of innovation.
Great. Thank you, Rajiv. I think what you said is apt. We do see collaboration becoming the norm across the industry. Everybody is trying to look at, okay, how we can create a value for the customer. How can we make it very efficient for the industries and the businesses to deliver a value to their own customer. So you're absolutely right when you say how the integration is coming together with the suppliers, the governments, the other industry verticals, how they are all trying to collaborate together to drive the value. So this is a great point. Thanks for that input, Rajiv. And moving on to Hiren, Healthcare is a very completely different universe, right? Unlike all other sectors, it is regulated. It always works on mission critical systems, and you have to, at the end of all of it, you have to provide the deep human connect that is required for patient management. How is this shift playing out in your environment?
Yeah. So very truly said, and thanks for putting the great question. So I want to highlight couple of things. See, it is not a matter of putting the system into the healthcare industry. It is not just about the deployment. When we are putting any system, any digital change transformation, it is all about the patient care, the clinical adoption, and then we have to think of the ecosystem, the culture of the organization. Because see, when you are thinking about the healthcare, we are with the various stakeholders, starting from the doctor, who is the highest educated among the society, then nursing, the clinical staff, and then the end users, who all are come in a single on a single platform to support the patient and to give the best and better care to the patient. So we need to think all stakeholders. We need to understand that, like, how they are adopting the technology, whether it is good. Sometimes what happens, the doctors are able to understand, but at the ground level, the second layer, third layer may not be able to understand the adoption. So it is always challenging for us. But at the same time, I always prefer that, like, if the organization have the right roadmap, when they have a right governance in place, and the good management who can support for the digital and transformation journey, I don't think that it is a challenge for any organization. Nowadays, the regulatory also strict, so we have to take care. So the regulatory is one of the pillar for us to consider any digital adoption. Basically, we need to balance all these things all together to deploy any technology into the healthcare organization.
Yep, makes sense. Yeah. I think having been part of many healthcare solutions myself, I can definitely relate to what you are saying, Hiren. So when you talk about patient care, uh, obviously there's a lot that goes behind the scene to deliver that patient care, where the patient walks out feeling very happy and taken care of. So there is doctors and all these platforms which are regulated by a lot of regulations. Every country has their own regulations. And how do we manage the patient data? How do we bring in the right kind of a solutions? I think we have gone the way the technology has evolved over time, the kind of integration that is available today between the hardware and the software, and the kind of models that are made available, which can be deployed also into the sensors, right? So all of this are changing the way the healthcare industry is looking at delivering the services, delivering the patient care. So I really appreciate your inputs, Hiren. Now that we have defined what is beyond digital, let's zoom in on what leadership is required in going in this stage. We're no longer talking about technology enablement. We are talking about intelligence orchestration, ecosystem design, and business model rewiring. So probably the first question in this regard, Kuntal, I'll probably come to you. Having built an AI organization from scratch, what skills or mindsets should next-gen tech leaders prioritize to lead in an intelligent and autonomous future? You're again on mute.
So I think if you look at particularly what's happening with this, right, and I think it's important to make that distinction, because AI as a field has been around for decades. But what is interesting about this wave is what I kind of touched upon briefly earlier, is that there is truly a democratization of AI happening, which enables not just obviously your data scientists and your tech teams to build quicker, but it also allows your non-tech people to produce things, to come up with prototypes, to come up and at least take their idea, like, 5x further than they wouldn't have. The biggest thing that actually has come in today is that tech and data scientists don't have to be bottleneck for a lot of the other functions. And since we're all from that function, I think I can say it. We all know often that there are top-notch priorities that prevent teams from looking at or taking on other projects or other areas, which may eventually land up being critical, but there's a lot of time that is lost in that. So I think the way that I see it is our roles change from being the owner of the tech or the owner of being the only person who actually understands AI, tech, etc. But you actually start becoming what I call an orchestrator, right? Ideally, you want to be in a place where you see the evolution or the implementation of AI happening from all different functions. It's not just coming from your function. Your function is kind of responsible for ensuring there is a platform. There are connections that are being made. It is possible to kind of go ahead and deploy something once it's in a spot to be there. Those are the kind of things that you want to ensure you're setting up for true innovation and true, I would say, experimentation to happen. You see this happening a lot with smaller companies and startups. I think at larger companies there's a amount of shift that needs to happen, and it's not easy because healthcare, obviously, as you were speaking, Hiren, has a lot of regulation and issues that kind of come into place. But with AI, there is a tremendous amount of governance and regulation that also needs to come into other industries. So I'm not saying that it's straightforward, but it's a shift that kind of needs to happen, where you're actually orchestrating and driving innovation across the board, but ensuring that the platform is there, the pipelines are there. You have the ability to kind of make this happen. That's what I see as the role coming in. I think over a few years, we will question, like how a lot of companies today question, why do we have a chief digital officer? At some point, I would think that also, why do we have a chief AI officer is also something that should be questioned, over the next, if things go the way I see that it should, that's the question we should be asking.
Very, very nice. Very nice. So, Kuntal, what if I just have to summarize this? In order for the new era, the leadership has to think about how do we get the non-tech team also more literate on the AI side and make them part of the entire solutioning. Because the information is available, the models are available, people started understanding how to use the AI platforms to some extent. If we can get everybody together to lead the way forward, that is where there will be a lot more success coming in. So I think that's a very great point, Kuntal. So thanks for sharing that. Since you brought Hiren into a conversation saying that it's a regulated environment, I'll just go to Hiren to ask the next question. In a mission critical environment like healthcare, Hiren, what qualities must IT leaders develop to lead this next era of transformation? Again, it ties back to what Kuntal was mentioning. Healthcare is little regulated and all that stuff, right? So want to hear from you.
Yes, definitely. See, as per my view, three major things I can say. One is the empathy, because it is a healthcare industry. I always speak about the healthcare industry. Empathy first require the empathy, trust, and then the connection between the team. See, these three pillar can change the full adoption, automation, and help the leaders to transform any project. When we start any project, the project should have the clear visibility, roadmap, the transparency with the end user. Sometimes what we see that few leaders are setting the things or giving the details at the end of the project. That should not be the case at any point of time. Nowadays, the things are got changed. To think wisely or need to share with the team. When I'm coming to the healthcare industry, it should be patient centric. See, patient, we say in healthcare that patient is first. How we are saying for the retail or the autonomous, that customer first, for us the patient first. And when we are saying patient first, any technology, any adoption should be first for the patient. How I can be give the more benefit to my patient. Second is how I can give more flexibility to my clinical team so that they are less involved into the technology. They will be free to do their clinical job and give the better satisfaction to the patient. And lastly, the connection or the transparency of the project. Any project which we are deploying should not be with the for the system. Sometime what happens, it is just budgeted, AI need to be adopted, and people start putting AI as a buzzword. But I differ with that. It should be in a way where like we can really utilize the AI platform for the patient care, for the clinical usage, and which improve the clinical outcomes for patient. Nowadays, I'm sure you guys have seen lots of use cases, starting from the robotic surgery to the radiology diagnosis to the laboratory outcomes and all that. See, trust me, AI is going to change the world, the healthcare industry itself, where it required the right adoption and right implementation at the organization, and leader will play a major role in this all adoption. That is what I can say.
Well, Hiren, you probably are you're addressing some of the key fundamentals that are required for any leader to be successful in this era. When you talk about empathy, trust, and team connect, these are very much essential in any kind of setup, right? So if at all people are connected, if at all if everybody understands what is happening, then there is always going to be success. And especially with AI, one of the earlier points was Kuntal mentioned about, hey, healthcare has a lot of governance, but other industries do not have a governance. How AI comes into picture, how the data gets shared with the models, how the platform uses that model. We do not have those governance in place. In the last webinar that we had, we talked about something around that. If you get a chance, I think you should definitely take a look at it, where we're talking about what kind of governance needs to be there, what kind of risk assessment needs to be there. When you talk about don't just bring in the budget for implementing an AI solution, makes sense. We have to look at how is it going to help the entire industry. You also touched upon how AI is playing a vital role and it is changing the way. An example that you took about is radiology. We have been part of implementing a solution, working on some implementations and building some software where I've seen this myself, where we're building how we can detect a disease before it comes into a patient based on the past radiology data. So I can definitely relate to what you're saying, how AI is being used and how it is making an impact to healthcare. So thanks for bringing that insight into the whole ecosystem. I appreciate that, Hiran. Now, Ibrahim, one of the things is you are the CEO of Automotive Al Nabuda, right? And as in your key role, how do you think the CIO's task is evolving from an enablement to an intelligence orchestration?
Yeah. So if I think if we look back, so the role of the CIOs has been evolved always. Once we are stepping into different, stage of transformation. In past, we have got, the CIOs as the technology enabler, and then we have got, at this stage of digital transformation as a business enabler. So wherein basically the CEOs or the business units, they were creating business strategy, and then they were basically, implementing technology to enable those businesses. But now, once we are stepping into the new era of transformation, I think the role definitely is going to change. So the CIOs are going to come out of that shield of the implementers, of technology implementers, business implementers, but they get some kind of role of strategic roles. Yeah. So now, as Kuntal said also in some points, is basically the role is more related to bring some kind of synergy between different components which are playing in the business ecosystem, such as emerging technologies, such as businesses or the people all together. So the new role of the CIO perhaps is going to be to find in all the business of the area where is the role of the intelligence that creates competitive advantages, where the new revenue stream can be created, where value for the business can be created. So, as you mentioned rightly, so now the role is going to evolve to intelligence orchestrator. So, meaning that you're trying just to connect AI systems, AI model with the people, with the data, with the emerging technology all together. So it's very central role in that we should have it. And one thing also I'm now thinking about, because looking into the beyond digital, it's very complex environment. We are talking about the ecosystems that are interconnecting. It's not only the systems, but ecosystems. We are talking about the agentic systems, which perhaps is hosted somewhere, but it is going to be utilized in a certain ecosystem. So I think in such an ecosystem where we have or if the enterprise is stepping into that transformation, the decision making becomes very important role. And perhaps, the role of the CIOs is to help the business to define the scope and the boundaries of those decision making. Because typically speaking, in such an environment, perhaps the decision making has been shared among people, agentic system, autonomous systems. So the workflow that you're defining and defining all decision makings, it requires some kind of expertise. And then the CIO role is just to give the guidelines to that. And eventually, the last one, if you allow me, just to also perhaps it comes to my mind, is one thing that I think the role of the CIO is also just to guide the businesses to get into the future-proof systems. Meaning, because the environment is going to change very fast and quickly in the future. So the enterprises basically should be equipped with some kind of systems, infrastructure, which is allowing them basically to adapt themselves so quickly. So agility is extremely important, that should be adapted in those systems so that the businesses can react to the market or perhaps to the new disruptions in the market. So,
well, I think this was good input, Ibrahim. I think what you touched upon is very, very interesting, right? The way you're explaining this, the CIO's role, which used to be a tech implementation earlier, is going to change in terms of how AI plays a competitive advantage for the business. This is a very great point. The second thing that you mentioned about is how CIOs can look at AI adoption across the business to generate a new stream of revenue, which is very interesting, right? So this is more of CIOs now putting the hat of not only tech implementation, but let me think about the business. How AI can come in and start generating a completely new stream of business, especially in the competitive world where everybody is trying to understand how do I make more money, right? So this is a great input. I'll move on to Rajiv. There is a question that has come in. I'll take that question, and Rajiv, probably you can answer this. Okay. With the rise of Gen AI, many employees fear being displaced. What are the most effective ways leaders can reskill or redesign roles so that the workforce becomes AI augmented instead of AI replaced? Rajiv.
I think we are increasingly seeing agentic AI replace a lot of processes. So it's time for leadership to start reimagining their business, right? Today, where you had people doing repeatable tasks, those are obviously being taken by agentic AI agents. However, this also opens up significant opportunities for people, right? And this is really about what I call the change leadership. That's important for the leaders of the organization to bring in. So upskilling the organization. And typically when I talk about upskilling, and I think it was Kuntal who actually talked about the business getting involved in AI initiatives. Obviously, when the business. So today, even though you talk about a particular vertical or a sector, there is an inherent amount of knowledge which is still residing within the people. It's not always available in models and so on and so forth. So the ability to use that information to augment what AI delivers to the organization is what people should be really focusing on. So the upskilling part is very important. The second thing is also using these same people to look at what are the guardrails that need to be implemented. So today, responsible AI is a big topic when we discuss initiatives with our customers. So how do we make sure that human on the loop and not in the loop is actually able to bring in those guardrails? And again, I think this is something that cannot be replaced by industrialization of AI. This is something that people will continue to do. And last but not the least, and I think it's very important that we recognize the fact that irrespective of how much we industrialize AI into the organization, cross-functional teams will always move faster than agents working together. Now, agents working together can automate or augment processes, but the cross-functional knowledge that comes in is something which is, again, very unique to the human being. So I do agree with the question. There is a significant amount of automation happening. There's AI replacing what I call the low-end repeatable work. However, replacing humans is still a very far-fetched concept. I still think that there's a lot of options for upskilling, responsibility, and cross-functional elements in how you implement AI.
Thank you, Rajat. So a couple of points that you addressed is look at upscaling and how do we build guardrails. And implementing AI is not just out of the box. There are a lot of governance that is required. There's a lot of responsible AI implementation that needs to be looked at. That's where humans can be part of that whole thing. And one very interesting point that you mentioned about is the cross-functional knowledge that exists today in the humans. That is irreplaceable. So how do we use our knowledge across the functionality of the industry or the business that we are in? And looking at the tools and the technology that can help us to stay afloat and augment the AI with our cross-functional knowledge probably will make us more valuable in any industry. So thanks really for those inputs. We'll move on. We've been talking about leadership. Now, how do we move from leadership to building the capability? And this is where things get real. Across your industries, what capabilities must enterprises build to move from digital to intelligent to autonomous? So that's what we probably will take on. So Hiren, we'll start with you. In healthcare, the stakes are deeply human, as I mentioned earlier also, right? So how do you think organizations build these capabilities while still balancing innovation with the trust, ethics, and human connection, managing all the regulatory governance that is required?
Definitely. See, it is very important to balance all the stakeholders and the technology at a time. But it's a must to go. Technology adoption is must to go. As my colleague says that we cannot assume the any industries without the human, like only AI can rule and all that. Definitely same applies to the healthcare also. Without empathy, any doctors or any robot comes and give you the injection, you may not feel the satisfactory how the nurse comes and doctor pat at backside. So definitely that is something irreplaceable. But at the same time, the technology tools and AI required to boost that, give the better experience to the patient, to the doctors, to reduce the day-to-day things, and adoption is must for that. So all in all, what I am summarizing is that today AI is the buzzing word. We need to adopt, but at the cost, what, where, and how we are going to adopt, how we are going to implement, how it is going to be useful for my end users, my customers, my patients. That something make a big change in any industry. That is what I can say. Second thing is that when it comes to the healthcare, we need to always think about the next generation EMR, EHR, where it is integrated with the with all touch points, I can say, where it's regulatory touch points. Nowadays we are submitting all the data to the DHA through the website itself directly. Online portals are there. Patient can see their information, healthcare information. So technology adoption is must. This need to be in parallel. It need to go, but still we have a time to replace the human with the AI. So I can say that both things going like in a parallel, but still we have a way to go for replacement of human.
Okay. Thank you, Hiren. I'll probably circle back with you after this. I'll move on to Kuntal. So you have built a lot of functions across startups and enterprises. In your opinion, what are the critical ingredients for a successful AI adoption as companies push toward more autonomous and AI-first models?
I think fundamentally it comes down to people, right? So your leadership especially has to be committed to AI adoption, because it's not a matter of tools just simply being available. There is investment that takes place consistently, whether it is in terms of infrastructure platforms, the biggest thing around data. And this is something I've seen right from scratch. It's not an overnight flip that is going to happen. It is a journey that takes place. So it truly requires I would say literally from the top, CEO onwards, have to be committed, and they, frankly speaking, also have to believe in the power of AI. I have been at startups where we were not even at Series C, and was a fashion startup, so not even in that sense a hardcore tech startup. But the CEO had such belief in how data can be leveraged. Before I had come on board, there were two data scientists that existed, and they were doing true meaningful work. They were not just there for just for the heck of it. As a non-data scientist himself, he had built a regression model early on to leverage the data, right? So I think it comes down to having that belief. Today, you are seeing a lot of people, often operating from a sense of FOMO, which is a bit dangerous, right? That I'm going to miss out on this AI groovy trade that's happening. But they've not necessarily kind of thought through, or they've not necessarily absorbed that this is what can happen. And I believe this is going to happen. And I'm going ahead and investing and putting in what I need to be set up for the future. I may not be there today, but I will be there tomorrow. So I think the biggest thing comes down to leadership. Everything else falls into place for that.
Great points. I think you're absolutely right. If leadership is committed to getting the AI things in place and in the right way, that makes everything very, very different. And the example that you provided about the fashion startup, very interesting. If the CEO, CIO themselves are building the regression models and experimenting and showcasing how this can be used for the business itself, I mean, you're already setting the stage. The leader is starting to do everything from the AI perspective. That sets the stage for the entire organization to start looking at how do I build those capabilities. So thanks for those inputs. Raju, I have one question for you. Now, since you have run multi-year programs across the regions, right? What are the most underestimated factors and execution disciplines that decide whether organizations actually make this shift?
That's extremely interesting, and I'm going to be a bit provocative here at the expense of now. Governance is, I think, one of the elements that is really underestimated, right? Because normally what you also see that organizations either over-engineer the governance and then kill momentum in an AI adoption, or they under-govern it and then it loses coherence. So the sweet spot of what we call small, empowered teams that can make decisions is really still missing, right? And it's an underestimated factor. The second thing that I commonly see in most of these organizations is that there is no operating model. AI and data won't scale if you do not have a full-fledged ecosystem of funding, talent, accountability within the organization, right? So you need product-based teams, you need shared platforms, you need a clear linkage to the P&L of that particular initiative, and you need a clear ownership of the value. Now, without this, and this essentially forms the operating model, and without this, again, you tend to see a lot of the AI initiatives failing within the organization. And lastly, what I would like to probably dwell upon a little bit is, especially when you work with global organizations, every global organization would like to have consistency across the region. However, what they forget is that there is a certain amount of local autonomy that's required. Right? So companies that normally do succeed with their cross-border kind of AI implementations are the ones who have set a sort of non-negotiable standards, and these are normally typically around data security, what platform, technology stack that they will use, but then give the autonomy to the individual teams to perform, right? So when you get all these three factors together, that's when you see the transformation sort of becomes repeatable or resilient. And in my opinion, at least, a lot of organizations do not have the maturity to still get all of the elements that I spoke about, which is the operating model, the governance, and the ability to do a cross-functional or a cross-regional kind of alignment together to achieve a solution.
Great. Thank you, Raju. I think that's very interesting, especially when the global companies are spread all across the world. And if they are able to look at providing the basic framework and how do we provide that local autonomy that is required for addressing the local needs and be successful and build those capabilities to address the demands of that region. I think that nails it. So thank you for this inputs. There's one question that I would like to take from the audience. Kuntal, probably you can look at answering this one. How can organizations measure readiness for intelligent transformation? Are there early indicators or red flags that tell you whether a company will succeed or fail in scaling AI?
I think there are definitely some indicators. Like I said, one is being able to assess leadership commitment, and because I've actually spoken to so many different CEOs, CXOs over my career, and I've been in this space for about 20 years. It's easy to kind of figure out whose headspace is there and whose headspace is not. So it's a bit of a judgment call in that sense. But that to me is the number one thing. And why I say that is because it will go ahead and determine everything else. The one big element that comes in is data, data readiness, data maturity, data infrastructure. That actually becomes another one that kind of also determines what you'll be able to do. And I think the third thing, right, is even before you actually kind of get started on this so-called intelligence transformation, etc., it is also being able to, let's say, understand the organization's ability to absorb. And there is a massive change that kind of comes into place when you move in this direction. So let's say we talk a lot about personalization, we talk a lot about being able to do it, right? And today, frankly speaking, you can achieve a great degree of personalization when it comes to customer relationships. We've been talking about it, I've been hearing about it for almost 20 plus years, which is what got me into the AI space in the first place. But today we're actually close to achieving it. What does this mean in terms of the teams being able to digest this? Are they actually ready to digest this, right? So even as people get excited about, let's say, AI or intelligent organizations, it's also critical to kind of understand where does the team's maturity or the business's maturity stand in being able to take this and run with it. You're talking about a way, you're essentially talking about changing the way an organization works, not just augmenting. You're saying that it could be a fundamental way of how you operate. And so are you there or not? And are you ready to put things into place which will allow you to get there?
Thank you, Kuntal. I think I'll just do a quick time check. We are almost nearing an hour, but we'll try and cover a few more topics before we're wrapping up the session. Now, one of the thing is, every organization today says they are transforming, but only a small fraction actually makes it all the way to the intelligent or autonomous operations. So let's look at what are the real barriers and what really make it to the or ones that only stay in the strategy text. So I'll start with Ibrahim with one question. From an enterprise CIO lens, what are the key challenges that hold an organization back from moving beyond digital into intelligent operations? And before they attempt a big transformation, what readiness factors must be in place?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, okay, first of all, I think this will be a very big misconception if someone is thinking that the technology only drives the transformation. That's not the fact, because there are blend of factors playing very important role that determines basically the readiness of every organization getting to the new transformation age. So Kuntal discuss about the quality of data. That is very important and critical part of it, because looking in today's situation where most of the organizations are having, there is no quality of data. There are lots of duplicative data. Perhaps the data are locked basically in silos, very much poorly maintained. So there is no data governance. You can see in most of organizations, one or two departments that are looking after cleansing of data, and then as a result, you have a different version set of data. So this set of data cannot be used by AI. The AI cannot sense, cannot predict, anything. It cannot make any kind of decision making. So it is. I think we have to look into that as a very important factor if you are stepping into that. The second aspect, what I'm now thinking, is the existing of the legacy systems. So that is also a big hurdle to organizations, because many organizations are still having, in-house hosted systems is not migrated to cloud. They are not using cloud native platforms or API driven platforms. So there is no interoperability between those systems, and those systems basically, to be honest with you, is not meant to talk to any other systems. So changes becomes a continuous headache for every organization using such a system. Some small change in the business process perhaps is triggering update of many of the systems. So many times the organizations are wasting their time, and keeping the lights on rather than move on. So having this type of systems in place definitely is a big challenge for the organizations, because it is going to stopping them in, stepping into the new era of things, transformation.
So
And
essentially, what you're saying.
me
Yeah,
1 minute. So
yeah, please. Sorry.
yeah, it came to my mind the legacy mindsets. I think both Rajiv and Kuntal, they have touched upon that. Um, uh, in fact, the mindset changes and the culture change is also a big hurdle, because people are not really open to apply the changes. Fear of job replacements are there. These days everybody is talking about that one. Definitely is going to happen in a great scale. But then perhaps this is a new topic. We might have a separate session to discuss about this. Then I can think about the areas that, yeah, the people, they don't. We have also in many organizations lack of the skill sets also of the AI using the emerging technology as well. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So Ibrahim, what you said is it's very important to have the right data for decision-making systems. So without that, there's no AI system coming into play. So that's a great input. Uh, Puttal, one question for you. You may have heard about this pilot trap, right? Many people start with, hey, let's do this pilot and see how it works. Why do so many AI initiatives stay stuck as experiments that never scale? Uh, can you unmute, please?
Sorry. I think a lot of times pilots are often picked up uh, because they seem interesting, they seem cool, and you have to ask yourself that is it actually being picked because it's interesting or it's impossible to ignore? This is a pilot that we cannot ignore. It's is it not it's not impossible to ignore, right? And what I mean by that, and again, it's going to sound like I'm repetitive in some ways, but do you really have a true PNL business owner committed to this pilot? Is this something that is happening for the AI group or the tech group? And again, a lot of times that is also okay, because these groups are sometimes primarily driving innovation. They're responsible for keeping that spirit alive, whether it's the innovation group, it's strategy group, or even the tech or the AI group. But if you talk about something being adopted on a scale that is enterprise wide, right, you need to ensure that there is a true business owner that is assigned to it, a P&L owner. Are your success criteria set up? Do you know what actually success really is? And you're sticking to that. You're identifying what are the thresholds that we need to meet. You have also gone ahead and defined what it is that will enable you to go to scale. You're aware of all of this. These are things that you kind of need to think through with the business owner before you kind of get started. Are you okay, as I said, to go ahead and enable the changes that this may take? A lot of times, I think pilots become someone's pet project and they'll keep iterating. And you have to ask, what is the objective of this, right? What are you trying to learn? What are you hoping to change? And that's where I feel you see that element of what you call pilot fatigue. If there's a lack of a business owner whose skin is really not in the game, you are going to see these kind of scenarios happen. Again, I'm talking about uh, largely the retail and consumer space. Often in tech companies, there is encouragement towards going ahead, developing products, even if there's no outcome to it, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think Google Maps came about that way, or one of the best Google products actually came about as a result of hackathons and experiments. So this is true. This is not like applicable in that sense. But I think from a retail and a consumer perspective, you do need to ensure that there is that tie-in of the business owner.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you for that input. So let's move on to the next area. So we'll try and see if we can cover two more topics before we wrap it up. Technology is great, but if it doesn't create any value, nobody cares. I mean, that's how most of the businesses always look at it. And if you let's shift into something that every organization is struggling with. How can we translate technology into real, measurable business impact? So, Rajiv, since you have run a lot of multi-region programs and run complex programs too, what have you seen as the execution frameworks or disciplines that actually convert AI initiatives into measurable outcomes at scale?
Well, uh, there's no real formula for this, but in terms of a framework. But I think, from my perspective, there are about 4 disciplines that consistently have turned most of the large-scale data AI transformation projects from what I call promise to outcome. The first is obviously a value-backed planning. It's not about the model, it's about a business metric. And I think getting the business metric locked in with a P&L owner to every single use case is extremely important. The second thing is, now people are not talking about building AI at scale, or rather we're not talking about an industrialized delivery model. Almost every organization that I work with, this region and beyond, is looking at, to your earlier point, either pilots or labs. In real life, this will not work because the cost of running such programs is quite high. So you've got to think about how are you going to make it industrialized. And the only way to do this is to think about shared platforms, pattern libraries, reusable data pipelines, and actually thinking about how you can actually make 70% of an AI initiative or a new development almost repeatable. The third element that I comment upon and I talk about this a lot is the change in adoption management. This is really a place where most programs die. So frontline activation is important. Adhering to the process redesign or rethinking the business model is extremely important, and it's much more valuable than the algorithm behind. So the algorithm is actually just going to enable what we're talking about, but it's important that we have a lot of the adoption management being managed upfront. And last but not least is the impact tracking, right? Very often when I work with the CXOs in the region, one of the things I'm commonly asked is, how do we track the improvement that we're getting at? How are we getting the value out of this? And the only way we can do this is to have a constant telemetry on the value and accuracy of the initiative that's being implemented. And very often this is a very difficult part because nobody is actually a lot of the metrics by which to measure the value of what. So as I said, there's no real execution framework, but if you combine what I just said, right, in terms of the value planning, industrialized delivery, the adoption management, and impact assessment or the impact tracking, I think that put together sort of becomes the execution framework that you look for. And at that point, AI then stops just becoming about a collection of pilots and really becomes a scalable operating engine. That's the way I'm seeing it.
Thank you, Rajiv. I think those are very good points. At least we can take that into consideration when we start looking at these kind of a journey moving forward. Now, any transformation of this kind, when we look at digitalization, and now we're talking about the next era of where AI needs to come into the picture, this transformation is very cultural shift also. So every organization needs to look at, okay, how am I going to make this shift? If I look at the human side of the journey, we'd like to have one or two questions to the panel members so that we can also touch upon the human side of the journey and the culture shifts that needed for this kind of a transformation. Now, Kiran, since you operate in the healthcare, maybe one of the most complex environments, what have you seen as your biggest lessons in leading cross-functional teams through the change, which requires somebody to start adopting AI?
Yes. See, basically, as all panelists discussed, first of all, it required the clear roadmap, as Kuntan clearly mentioned. First of all, it should be adopted properly by the higher management. That yes, we are going to adopt this change, and then we are going to roll out. That gives the flexibility to the tech team that like yes, we are open for that. We are ready to adopt the new technology and ready to accept the changes what are going to happen throughout the journey of the new adoption. So that is something which need to be ensured properly. After that, we need to calculate the risk of any projects. How like what is the need and the risk? Both things need to be evaluated, because see, there is always a chance that like we have a failure due to the XYZ human factor. You have every technology available in your stake, but adoption is not there properly, trainings are not conducted, the transparencies are not there, then definitely there is a high chance of failure of the projects. So we need to take care of all these aspects before moving forward or onboarding any such a project, and then only we should execute. That gives the more confidence to all the team members. Any projects which we are going, end user or the team member should not feel that it is like for them, it is through them. That is what I can always say, because if they are the part of the project, if they are the stakeholder of the project, there is a less chance to the failure of any project. And that is how, because we are seeing this type of challenges in healthcare. Number of time, like personally, we are going to the doctors, giving the understanding, because they are from the technical, they are not from the technical background,
Not
they are from the
technical. Yeah.
clinical background. So we need to give them the understanding that yes, what we are doing, why we are doing, what the end use results
Yeah.
are, how it is going to be benefited to the patient and to the clinicians or the healthcare workers. So these all need to be on board before the project. It should be well designed with all the if and but, because
Hmm.
doctors may not, or the clinical team may not have that if and but. If this gone down, what will be the plan B? So these all things need to be taken care in a way where it will be easy for them. And this all comes to the tech team who is leading this project. So I believe that if the right combination of all these parameters are there, there is always a full chance to make your project successful.
Thank you, Hiren. Thank you. Really appreciate it. In the interest of time, we'll just take one last topic, and we'll probably wrap it up. Uh, Beyond today's challenges into what the next era of transformation actually looks like. So let's look forward to that. And Ibrahim, if you can answer this question, you work in a sector which is already pushing towards autonomy. Where do you see autonomous operations taking shape first? And how should leaders balance autonomy with the human oversight and the trust?
Yeah, the way that I'm looking to that, the role of basically of the humans so definitely is going to change in this ecosystem, because as we discussed also previously, beyond digital is very complex environment, and it's an area that uh, we are dealing with basically different type of ecosystem interconnected systems, and
Hmm.
the human is one of the part of the decision makers, and but you have also the systems like agentic systems or the autonomous systems, which are also will be part of the workflow of the system. So the human, perhaps if you're taking both a stage of transformation, so that means the intelligent transformation, but then the moment that you're stepping into the autonomous transformation, I think the role of the human is totally is going to change, and it's going to be a kind of, more into the supervisory. So that is what I'm thinking here.
Thank you, Ibrahim. And Kuntal, closing us out from retail and consumer brands perspective, what possibilities open up when Gen AI and autonomous systems mature? And where do you see the biggest value shifts happening?
I think if you look at the consumer and the retail space, the biggest opportunity is in the customer relationships and having the ability to speak to the consumer in context in real time across channels, right? We've always thought about this. I mean, the term CRM actually came up decades ago, but now you're in a position where you can do one-to-one. You can actually talk about personalization. You're not messaging someone just because you should be messaging them. You're messaging them because it's relevant. This is something that I personally am quite excited about. We have the means, for example, to be able to generate content that is on the fly, that is personalized, that is meaningful. We're talking about agents that can actually come in and decipher that should you as a customer get a promotional message, or should you get a message that just is kind of saying, okay, are you okay with the product you bought? Here are some self-care tips, etc., and all that, right? These kind of things are things that everybody knows conceptually make sense. We've never had the power to execute them. I think what I'm excited about is where this shift actually allows us to go. The other thing is retail, and I want to say retail specifically, but even consumer brands is often a bit of a messy situation. And I think with the autonomous AI that we're actually seeing, there is a lot of promise that things around inventory management, things around your movement, your warehouse fulfillment. You're already hearing about Amazon going ahead and deploying, robots at the warehouse. These are now things that a lot of companies can think about as the technology becomes a little bit more democratized and accessible. So it just shifts the energy and the time and the way companies are spending their bandwidth into a different zone. So I think these are two different sides, like, the demand and the supply. But coming together, I think they have a very interesting impact. And I'm personally very excited to see how all of this takes place.
Thank you, Kuntal. Really appreciate that inputs. Now, in the interest of time, I think we will move towards wrapping up with the closing remarks. If there's one thing that today made it very clear, is this: we are stepping into an era where organizations must be fast, intelligent, aligned, accountable, and human first, all at the same time. That makes it very, very interesting. So, digital gave us speed, but intelligent transformation will define competitiveness. And as a panel member showed today, the future won't belong to the companies that use the most technology, but to the companies that use it with purpose, clarity, and trust. So thank you to our fantastic panel, Kuntal, Rajiv, Ibrahim, and Hiran, and to everyone who joined us for this webinar. Special thanks to AI CoSpot for organizing and hosting this event, and to InfoVision for being the technology partner. So really appreciate all of you taking the time to be part of this webinar. Thank you, guys. Over to you, Nitin.
Thank you. Thank you. I know we are on the top of the hour, but I'd like to, especially thank all our speakers, Kuntal, Rajiv, Ibrahim, Hiren, and obviously Vinay being a great moderator as well and summing it up at every stage. I'm sure the people who have listened to you have got a lot of knowledge through this forum, and I'm sure they will get more things in the near future as well through our platform. Just for those who couldn't attend our session or wish to revisit it at the later part of the stage, the recording will be accessible on our company's YouTube channel, so you can go and see that anytime. We extend our sincere appreciation to InfoVision, who is our knowledge and innovation partner, and Digit7, who is our technology partner, for looking into more into their website, which is www.infovision.com. You can look at the tech innovations which they're doing, which is excellent. It was a pleasure to present this session. We hope you all enjoyed it as much as we did. Look forward to more engaging sessions in the near future. Take care. Have a great day and year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.